works. Real shit.
For this contest, I'm training even less. I'm probably doing a total of maybe 3.5 hours a week in the gym of actual weight training. And some of my competitors are doing probably that much every day.
And I love to find the best way to train, and I had a passion for it in my brain works. It works in logic and mathematics and straight lines. I analysed it, and I've noted if I train more frequently, if I do a bit too much, my progress was just stopping.
Hello and welcome to Castle's Corner. I'm Coach Castle, and as you can see, today we're going to be doing another biomechanical breakdown of Blood and Guts, Dorian Yates. Today's shoulders and triceps. We'll be getting into what's good, what's not, what he got right, what he was probably being redundant on and why, etc. But as you guys probably already know, a lot of compliments to Dorian Yates. He figured out a lot of things that basically nobody else did. And his training style were very similar to my training style. It's very high intensity, taken to near failure with perfect movements. He was only doing about 2 movements per muscle group. He was doing only 1 or 2 sets. And of course, he was only training about 3.5 hours a week total time. So again, Dorian got a lot of stuff right, so let's break it down. Okay, so one of the first things you're going to see Dorian doing for his shoulders is something a lot of people do, is the overhead press. Now, the overhead press has a lot of problems I'm going to get into in just 1 second, but to begin with, what he's attempting to train is his shoulders. His shoulders are made up of the front deltoid, the lateral deltoid, and the rear deltoid. Each and every one of these has a perfect movement, which is not the overhead press. Each one has an ideal resistance curve beginning from a mechanical disadvantage and ending with a mechanical advantage. When he's doing this overhead pressing movement, he is using shortened levers, so only his upper arm bone instead of making use of both of his bones together, which would be a longer lever, greater magnification. On top of that, he is creating shoulder impingement. Now, to get into the downsides of the actual overhead press, I would just like to point out that since the humerus attaches to the torso alongside the head, not in front of nor behind the head, using a barbell automatically requires either the backwards tilt of the forearm, basically behind the neck press, or a forward tilt of the forearm in front of the neck press in order to allow the exerciser to avoid hitting themselves in the head with the barbell. Now, tilting the forearms either way, forward or backwards, during any kind of pressing movement strains the muscles of the rotator cuff and also causes that shoulder impingement I was talking about. I have other videos about this. But basically, a backward tilt strains the internal rotators, while a forward tilt strains the external rotators. Now here, Dorian is forward tilting his forearm in order to avoid hitting himself in the head. Now, even after the bar has passed his head, however, he still does not fully correct the forward tilt. Now, that's because he doesn't have enough shoulder mobility to actually rotate their humerus externally. And basically, he can't fully straighten it. He can't have it perfectly in line with the deltoids he's attempting to train. But it doesn't matter either way. The result is the same. It strains the limits of the smaller shoulder rotational muscles. The overhead press uses the shorter levers, as is previously mentioned, which reduces the magnification of the load on the deltoids. It also alters the alignment, meaning that the origin and the insertion of the lateral deltoids are not on the same plane as the direction of resistance. And furthermore, it engages a lot of other muscle groups that assist the anterior deltoids and the triceps, but again, not in a productive resistance curve. So this is the, let's call it the worst exercise he's chosen for shoulder day. All right, guys, here you can see Dorian doing a seated dumbbell lateral raise. I'm sure most of you already know what I'm going to say about this, but number 1, he's bending his arms, lowering the lever magnification. Number 2, he's using momentum generated from his back. But number 3, the biggest problem is that he is doing it in a backwards resistance curve. So he's ending with a fully contracted muscle, but also with a 100% active lever. So what you want to do for all muscle groups on your body is begin with a lengthened muscle and a mechanical disadvantage. At the midway point of the movement, you want to be passing with a 100% active lever. And towards the end of the movement, you want to be concluding with a contracted muscle and very little load and mechanical advantage, basically. So in order to accomplish this, you can do what he's doing, which is use cables, which is not the same as dumbbells. Using cables, it completely alters the resistance curve, and it's identical to if he was lying on his side and doing a lying on his side lateral dumbbell raise. At the conclusion of the movement, his arm is essentially parallel with gravity. There is little to no load on his lateral deltoid. And as you can see here in the diagram, I'm comparing the two. There's a 100% active lever when using the dumbbell at the conclusion of the movement. You want that 100% active lever about the midway point. When using the cables, you keep resistance and load on the lateral deltoid the entire time and in a correct resistance curve. It is much preferable. Here you can literally see the difference in load, the numbers, etc. But just understand that when you're using cables, for all intents and purposes, you're able to visually see the line of gravity, and then you can line up your bones accordingly. Of course, I have many other videos about this, guys, I encourage you to check out. But long story short, either use a cable the way he did the second one, don't use a dumbbell, and if you are going to use a dumbbell, do it lying down so you have the correct resistance curve. He's being redundant, doing 3 different movements for his lateral delts. The overhead press is not a very good one. Obviously, the cable lateral raise is very good, and the dumbbell is a backwards resistance curve. Here we see Dorian getting to his triceps finally. He's doing a tricep extension. The only real complaint I have here is a slightly restricted range of motion, but he's still keeping it within the 80% range. He's basically taken 10% off the conclusion of the movement and 10% off the front of the movement, which is perfectly fine. When you're doing high loads and eccentric training like this, it makes sense to do. The issue is it's bilateral deficit. All this means essentially is that when you're using a single bar like this, you're not getting as much benefit as you would be if you're doing something like a single arm movement like he gets into in just 1 second here. The reason for this essentially is something called cross-body education. You never want to be using barbells or machines that's only a single implement, because essentially if you're doing something called unilateral training, or using a dumbbell in each hand to accomplish the same task instead of using a barbell or a single cable in each hand as he's doing here, you would be able to see that you get a 10%, 15% bonus to the other side of your body, even if that arm was broken or something. It's a neurological phenomenon, on top of the fact that because you're only using a single muscle group, you have the ability to focus on it more, generating more force, more volume, more reps. These are all very good things to do. Of course, it allows more range of motion, on top of the fact that you have more control of it. You don't want to be using momentum. You want to be a statue except for the arm that you're using. Now, the benefit here when using single arm is, again, the unilateral benefit, but I would also like to point out he's switching his grip here with the single arm pull, and I'm not sure why he's doing this. I don't know why people do this other than comfort's sake, but your tricep doesn't actually attach to bones that would make any bit of difference if they were to rotate. So basically your hand placement has no effect whatsoever on tricep activation. So just do whatever is comfortable for you, whatever feels comfortable. Okay, so here we got Dorian just doing a lying tricep extension, also known as a skull crusher. He's using the easy curl bar. This is because of wrist positioning. It's, I'm sure, much more comfortable to do it like this. But once again, a reminder, as long as your wrist is comfortable, your wrist position has no bearing whatsoever on the effectiveness of the tricep exercise. It's a bilateral movement, so not the best. He would have been better using dumbbells. He's probably using it in this particular case because of his torn tricep. Next here we have the upper trap shrug he's doing. Now you'll notice, and you'll notice from also the anatomy here, that your upper trap connects to the back of your neck, not the top of your head. This is why we don't walk around looking like cobra people. Now, muscles only pull insertion to origin, and they do so in a straight line. So you want to have a nice forward lean, maybe 10 or 15 degrees forward lean. That way gravity is doing what it does best, which is straight down, going through your neck and then through your hopefully relaxed straight arms, and then lifting the dumbbells up. He's doing something very similar. He has a slight forward lean, and he's again pulling his shoulders or his scapulas straight towards the back of his neck. The only criticism I would add here is that he's got his elbows bent. He's kind of putting a lot of pressure on his biceps. He doesn't need to be. He'd be better if he just relaxed his arms. But as you guys again can clearly see, the traps, lower, middle, and upper, are clearly shown here. He's attempting to work his upper traps, which connect to the back of the neck, and you want to have a slight 10 or 15 degree forward lean to maximally engage them. Alright guys, so that's the clip for today. Now I'm going to carry on doing, he has another video where he goes over rear delts and front delts. He doesn't really include those in this section of shoulder day, I'm not sure why not. But regardless, this was how he was training his triceps anyways, which is, as you can see, efficient if redundant. It's a shame he didn't use dumbbells instead of barbells. His lateral deltoid was obviously getting plenty of work and then some. It's a shame what he did to his shoulders, etc. But again, you guys get the idea. In other videos, I'll be getting into his rear delts and front delts and a couple others. I already have a part 1 you should check out if you haven't already. And just a reminder, everyone, I have a new book out. This is my 9th one, and it's for the ladies. And if you haven't already, check out my link in the description below. I have all my links to all my things, including my Etsy store, where you can buy the most amazing knowledge for pennies. And of course, you're supporting me. I hope that you liked that video. I just wanted to remind you all, if you're able to and you support my work, please make sure that you like the video, you subscribe if you haven't already, you click the notification bell, and you share this video or leave a comment to help the algorithm. Every little bit helps, and I'm trying to get this information to as many people as is possible. And of course, if I can help you with any of your coaching needs, you need a running plan, you need a workout plan, you want to build mass, you want to lose weight, you want to do things correctly, you want a full education about your diet, your exercise, your respiratory health, supplements, and everything else, just contact me at castleinprogress.com or via my email, castleinprogress@gmail.com. If you don't want coaching directly, just check out my Etsy store. It's linked in the description of all of my videos. I have all of my many books, tools, and everything else there. Or finally, check out my Substack. It's linked in a lot of the videos as well. And it's free, a free newsletter where I share the latest science, advice, exercises, and everything else for free. So thank you as always for your support, everyone.